Woo! Yo, turn the track up, dude. Turn it up. This confirms it. What I already knew, it confirms it right now. We're in a moment. It's like
I don't mean to impose, but my God, I'm just too cold. No chain, no range, and no gold. But my God, I'm just too cold. Just too cold. Just too cold.
Y'all know that it's gotta be cold if we say it to you just too cold.
Hey, yo, it is yours truly, Lamore Decina, a.k.a. Mr. Kool Spot, a.k.a. the Lyrical Storyteller, a.k.a. the Gator. Yes, sir. And here with my lovely co-host.
Go ahead and say it. You're going to say my whole name.
Sharita Freeman.
Hey, y'all. I am Sharita Freeman, a.k.a. the Poet.
Yeah.
How you doing, Limo? It's 2023.
It's 2023. Happy New Year's to you, the family, everybody that's watching, everybody that will be watching. Happy New Year's to you all. It's been beautiful. It's been beautiful.
Absolutely. We're 7 days in. 7 is my favorite number. So
it's a good number.
It's my favorite number of all time. So
right.
I think it's amazing that 1-7 ended up being our first podcast of the year. And the funny part about life is that life sometimes is always moving, and sometimes it doesn't always go the way in which we think it's gonna go.
Right.
And like our podcast, we went from being in person to doing virtual. But the thing about it is, when there's something good to be said or good to be talked about, nothing can hold that back. So whether it be in person or virtual, the good news, the good word is still going to get out. So
absolutely.
We want to thank y'all for stopping by the Kool Spot. Come and hang out with us, okay?
Yeah.
So generally, when we're in person, we would generally be during our network time frame. So 12 to 1 is generally the moments where we network, we cut up, we get to know one another, we talk to each other. So we're going to change it up. We're going to do something a little different, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is, because today we're talking about autism in support, right? And learning about what autism is, and then learning how to help those that are experiencing or going through what is known as autism disorder.
Spectrum disorder, sorry.
Autism spectrum disorder, or those that are neurodivergent. And honestly, interesting enough, when you start looking up neurodivergent, a lot of us fall in that category.
A lot of us fall in that category.
Dyslexia, a lot of those things, a lot of us fall into that category. So not having things be taboo, but fully understanding what they are. So we're going to have a good time today, y'all. We're going to cut up and we're going to get to know some things that are essential. But Lima, I want to know, do you believe in New Year's resolutions? Since we're here, right? And it's a quote unquote New Year, even though my New Year don't start until March 20th? We start new stuff in the spring, but that's a different conversation.
Right. That's a different conversation. Yeah. So, I mean, do I believe in New Year's? I do. I do for people that feel like they need that, because I like the phrase. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I like to try to play the medium in all things, right? So I'm the moderator. So I always try to keep that perspective in a lot of my decision making, and even how I approach questions. For people that feel like they need a New Year's resolution, and I think it's necessary.
Okay.
But for others, that's just like, well, every day is New Year's. Every day I'm working towards something great. Every day I'm working on me. You know what I mean? Like, some people innately just kind of have that they kind of built some good habits around their lifestyle to really cater to that kind of mindset. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, is it necessary? Yeah, I would say so. Does everybody need it? I mean, I don't think everybody needs to be reminded that it's a New Year's resolution, because I think, me personally, I kind of question. That's a good question, because I kind of question like a comparison and contrast between both parties, right? Because if you have one that says every day is New Year's, the other one is saying well, I just need that at the top of the year to keep me motivated and to remind me to stay motivated because that decision they made at the top of the year. I would love to do some research to figure out who actually stays true to the commitment versus those that don't. You know what I mean? So that's a good question. That's something to look into right there. I'm curious now. That's good.
Now y'all got Limo's gears rolling, y'all.
You got me rolling, right? Can you see my gears?
I see the gears. I see the gears switching and turning. Like, yeah, it's a process right there. Okay.
Yeah. What about you? What you think?
So as a person that can be all over the place, I think New Year resolutions are a good thing because sometimes it's just wanting to be rooted in discipline, right? Yeah, and a lot of us are trying to relearn or unlearn bad traits. And so trying to redefine that what that discipline means for us. So I don't think it has to be something that's just a top of the year thing. Like me and my sisters, we still check in mid-year to say, hey, we might have wrote down some things. Where are we at? What else? What's going to be the focus for this year? Because I watched a video and it was talking about you should write down 10 goals on a sheet of paper. And it was like a video talking about success and wealth. And it was saying whichever one you're most drawn to, that should be the thing that you focus on that year. And so many times we want to phrase it as a resolution when it's just really just us honing and focusing in on our skills.
I like it. Yeah. I like it.
So maybe not a resolution, but like a accountability.
Right.
So accountability season.
Yeah, accountability is always good, though. I think for anybody, it's always harder to do things on your own. It's always good to it's like working out, right? You know, I believe that there's more. You get better results if you have a workout partner with somebody you can share the energy with. Because I think that's what it all boils down to.
Not the energy exchange.
It's the energy exchange during the workout, right? So I think that's what pumps and prime and keeps people motivated during these processes, man, is having somebody that can hold you accountable and that can push you when you're weak, and that's going to pick up the slack, you know what I'm saying, and say, hey, I noticed you were over here, you seem tired, do you need me to do anything? How do we stay motivated? How could I push you a little bit further? You know what I mean? So the teamwork, it's an effort that's necessary. Yeah,
absolutely. Like when you tell me I'm slacking sometimes, you be like, so you said you was gonna do ABC, and y'all they don't know. Limo, like literally is a big brother to me. He don't play that. Accountability. He like, you shouldn't have asked me to be your accountability partner. Here you go.
Well, people like us, we do good under pressure. So we do good under pressure. So I think that plays a part, right? So I understand you because we're a lot alike. Me and you are a lot alike in so many ways. It's funny. We would pretty much rather wait last minute to get something done because we know we can get it done last minute. You know what I mean? Like we can have
it's like a challenge with yourself.
Yeah. So those good challenges to self, I think, are good too. But yeah, just we just can't drop the ball though in the process. Don't drop the ball.
I seem like I'm dropping the ball, y'all. Believe me. You're like, hey, Bree, let's talk about it. You all right? You good? So, okay. So you say every day is a new year, a new resolution, because you're battling with self. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, when we do resolutions, most of the time it's for ourselves to be consistent.
Right.
Or to say, hey, I see something that I would like to change within myself or my environment, and that starts with the inward change.
Right.
So everything we need is already within self. Okay.
It's already within self.
Like it.
Yeah. I said this quote years ago, and I still stay true to it. I came up with this quote. I said, encourage yourself with words that build because it's already in you. You know what I'm saying? So the thing that's already in you are the encouraging words, comes from within. So it's a thing that you should naturally connect with on a day-to-day basis anyway. But you're right. It's already in you, though. It's already in you. It's all
okay. So encourage yourself with words that build because it's already in you. I like that.
Right. Yeah, that sticks. Yeah.
All right. Elevate yourself because you already got it.
It's already in you. And y'all can take that 2023. Y'all can have that. Y'all can have that.
Oh, 2023. It's not maddening, guys. You can take that, put it on the wall, put it on the January wall.
Yeah, put it on the wall, put on the shirt if you want to. It's not trademark. It's fine. I'll let y'all have that. That's fine. But it keeps me encouraged, though. I talk to myself daily for a long time. I'm in the truck riding. I'm just talking to myself. I respond to myself. I laugh at myself. All of that.
I'm gonna answer yourself, but you said you answer and respond and
I
laugh.
answer, respond, laugh, joke, crack, all of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm one with self, though. I'm one
But I
with
think
self.
that's the part of being in tune and knowing it's okay to be so in tune with self.
It's okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like we're in tune with the Kool Spot. Like you said, we're at this stage of growth and figuring out what works and like what can be more beneficial and how can we reach everyone. And so I think that's the beautiful thing. Being in tune and knowing what the goal is.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I have to say though, I do appreciate, starting a year off with a great partner, Sharita Freeman. I say it all the time. Everybody need a free in their life, right?
What?
I'm
the most aggravating little sister ever, I promise.
Well, you good. You're good. No, because Free knows me better than most people. You know what I'm saying? And I say everybody needs a free in their life because when we talk about support, teamwork, being one with somebody where we naturally just know how each other process information when it comes to particular things. Like this podcast, it's our baby. You know what I mean? And it's something that we cherish, and it's something that we don't take light either. So like, yeah, we get gung-ho about a lot. And we have a lot of ideas because we're creatives first. We're artists.
Yeah,
we're creatives.
Those ideas
we're super creatives.
We were there with Bill Gates with the ideas.
So we're like all over with the ideas, but we had to tone it down a lot of the times because some things comes with time, and it's like, okay, well, let's not try to rush this to make it happen. Let's make sure we're pacing ourselves to get to where we need to be, build the audience and all of that. And I say thank you because where I've been within this last month and a half dealing with this Facebook issue. And, and for those that don't know, Facebook has changed a lot of the rules. I kind of lost my little passion for social media for a little bit because of Facebook. And there's just a lot of restrictions, a lot of loops that I had to jump through just to get information out there. And there's a lot of, people will try to hijack your posts for the sake of reporting you. And then once you're reported, because you get into a debate with somebody, which was my situation, the page get restricted. Yeah.
And the thing about it, what the post that someone had attacked him about was a poem I did. It was my poem.
Yeah.
And it was just uplifting Black men. And this gentleman, because I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna call him a gentleman. He didn't care for my poem. And so Lamoy definitely was just like, well, wait a minute. Okay, this is my sister, this is her piece. Like, but we can talk about it. If you don't care for us calling Black men kings, let's talk about it. Yeah. And that led into Lamoy getting reported and then blocking him from advertising. And it was just like, wow, like that's horrible. Like that should never be the case. And so it limited just how much or how wide our span was for the audience for this show. And so that's what kind of created some differences. Exactly. It hurt my feelings. I was like, that's my favorite piece ever to uplift like Black men. And like this man is at, first of all, I was on a cruise ship at that, okay? And I see a little post like, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, you can exit. If you don't like it, just don't like it. But needless to say, it's a beautiful thing to have a partner that you're in business with that's going to support you and that's also going to stand up for you in any room that you're in. Because again, we're artists first. And so Erykah Badu said we artists and we can be a little sensitive about our stuff. Especially when it's uplifting the community. So thank you, Limo.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like we here for each other. You know what I mean? We compliment each other through this process. So yeah, it's you my sister, man. Like we here for each other.
Forever.
That's right. So yeah. So where we at, Free? What we doing?
All right. So now we about to get jump started because we're going to be talking about autism in action. But before we get to the podcast portion, we have two lovely, amazing women. And I don't want to get too much into one of them specifically because she's going to be on the podcast. But these two women, they both have careers within dealing with the autism spectrum disorder and neurodivergency, excuse me. And so I just would love for us to just start this off with talking about some key terms when it comes to dealing with autism, and also just knowing the difference between autism and neurodivergent, and having just a conversation about what do we think it is, like how do we, what's been our direct impact with it. Just because I think let's have this conversational piece first before we get into the meat and potatoes. So Limo, have you had anybody directly that you've known that dealt with autism?
Yeah, I used to date a young lady some years back, and her daughter was autistic. And it's definitely, from what I experienced and from what I've learned through the process, and just watching, my ex like grow in her process of learning more and being more patient, it's humbling. It's humbling, not in a bad way, but it's humbling in a way that it should be humbling. You know what I mean? Because I think if everybody in our world had empathy and the compassion from a genuine space, like parents of children with autism, then I think we have a better world today. You know what I mean? And so like it just takes a lot more patience and pacing yourself in order to deal with, like, handle a child with autistic behaviors, and I think it's a beautiful thing though. Because again, I look at self-development a lot. I really put in a lot of time with self-development. And, I think again, from that perspective, it puts us where we need to be as people, you know? So but I have, and it's very like, it's a beautiful experience. I can put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. When I was teaching that short term that I taught y'all, because I started out as a teacher first. When I was student teaching, the next door to the kindergarten class I was in was I want to say it's called a mom's class. So they were all considered nonverbal. And I'm pretty sure if I'm incorrect in my breakdown of the acronym, Loc'd will let me know. But we would still go and have like morning circle over there. And it was beautiful to see kids learning at such a young age to be gentle, and that my friend sitting beside me might need my help, or they might grab my hand, and it's okay. It's not that they're trying to hurt me, but to understand that they're trying to communicate something to me.
Right.
And it was very beautiful. And then recently, I had one of my nephews get classified as autistic, for being somewhat on the spectrum. And it's a little early because he's young, but it was still good to hear it and to not automatically think like it has to be a swing set. Like it's either, I know a lot of times we used to hear a lot high functioning or low functioning, and those can be really offensive terms nowadays. The more you know, the better you do. And so just learning that some of these titles or thoughts that we used to use are accurate, and how to relearn, because it's not, we just have to remember that it's different. It's not less. These babies aren't any less than the rest of us. They just process and learn a little bit different.
Right.
So that's been my personal experience. And so getting to know more has been, important, and having this episode set up as this process has been going on, it's been amazing in just learning. And so we definitely want to share with y'all what these ladies might have to say as well, as we all learn together. So without further ado, drum roll, I'm going to bring these ladies in. All right, first we have Laquan Black, and we have Loc'd.
What's up, y'all?
Hey. How you guys doing today?
We're well, ladies. You both look lovely. How are y'all doing?
Doing good. Appreciate you having us on today.
Yes. Absolutely. I know, Laquan, you can't tell too much of your background yet because that's us jumping the gun. But you would like to share just a little bit, so that our audience can kind of understand the background and what you're coming from.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought she said Laquan. My bad. Go ahead.
No, Laquan. Yours is later because yours is the actual podcast. So we're gonna,
Gotcha.
Loc'd.
So I have been working with a small district in North Carolina as a special education teacher. We call it the Exceptional Children's Program because all of our children are exceptional and have exceptional ways of learning. I started off as what we call a resource teacher, meaning that I am an extra support for the general education teachers to reach students that may need a little extra support. So I would take them out of class for a little bit and assist them with getting gap skills, things that they may have missed or may have had struggles with acquiring along the way, and finding ways to what we call differentiate instruction. So that's finding ways to really meet them at their point of needs and in their learning style, and helping them get those gaps so that they could excel in the classroom. As a teacher, I came through Teach for America because my previous training and career path was in behavioral supports for students and children along the way in many different capacities. But as I transitioned through Teach for America and as a resource teacher, several of my students were identified on the spectrum. Teachers had a lot of challenges with helping support those students, not really knowing how to reach them, not really knowing how to support them. And every student was absolutely different in what they needed and the way their autism was expressed. So those were my hearts. I just was drawn to them because personally, I also have family members identified on the spectrum. So the spectrum has been a part of my life for basically all of my life, and learning how to navigate those streets and support individuals who are on that journey. So as a teacher, I was helping other teachers to support these students. And at my particular school, we're very blessed to have a classroom specialized in supporting those students. Many of those students were nonverbal, as you were speaking. They needed some additional supports with toileting, feeding, self-care. And we had a classroom designed to allow those students to still be a part of the actual school setting, with a classroom specially designed to help support them. So as I was helping the general education, I would take some of those students to that classroom to give them exposure to their sensory needs, which is a big part of autism, is making sure that you can speak to the different sensory needs of that student because they experience the world in a completely different way. So they may need things that will help regulate that. So I would take them in there on and off. That teacher of my second year in the school system had a really challenging time. She also came through Teach for America, so I was kind of like her mentor. And she struggled a lot because she just was young and it was a new environment and those kids had a lot of needs and she just did not know how to handle it. Ultimately, she decided not to stay and she left. And they were like, this will be the third teacher in 3 years. And another big thing with individuals on the spectrum is they need that routine and that consistency. It's really going to be helpful for them to be able to excel and prosper. So I volunteered to transition to that classroom, and I have been a part of that classroom now for 6 years. And it's been very essential for me to provide that consistency for those babies because they didn't choose that path. The path chose them. And I just want to do my little part and to be able to help them. So we've all been growing together, learning as we go. They're learning how to do school. I'm learning how to do school right with them. So we've all been growing and transitioning and just blossoming. And I've just had the pleasure of seeing some of my students. This year, I will have been with some of my students from kindergarten up to 5th grade, and just to see their transition and their growth has just been just such a blessing from my life. So,
That's beautiful.
Thank you for that, Loc'd. Laquan, without spilling too much, if you can tell us just a little snippet.
So I'll just share how I got here to the business before we get into the podcast. My journey started because I too have a child on the spectrum. My youngest, my son, was diagnosed on the spectrum with what was then called Asperger's. They've since removed that from what is called the DSM-V category, which is what psychologists and psychiatrists use to diagnose a disorder. Or that is the language, the coding language that they use to assign a numerical value to say what that is. But they've now classified and categorized everything under autism spectrum disorder. He was also diagnosed with sensory processing disorder as well as ADHD. And it's very, very common for individuals on the spectrum to be diagnosed with more than one thing, particularly sensory processing disorder. And we all know we have 5 senses. They could have sensitivities to one sense. They could have sensitivity to all of them or several of them. And as Loc'd was mentioning, it is very critical to understand that while they call it a spectrum, it's really not a spectrum. It really doesn't go from this end to that end. It really is this end to that end. And in the middle of that, it can be all of this, any kind of way, in a circle, in a triangle, square. It could be squiggly lines. It could be all over the place. And so, there was a lot of things that I had to learn. A lot of things I had to learn about him, a lot of things I had to learn about myself. And every step of the journey, things change because he's still, at the end of the day, he's still a person. He's still an individual despite the diagnosis. He's still growing. He's still learning. He's still experiencing the world differently. And just like with any other child, as soon as you think you got one area mastered, they move into a different cognitive understanding because of who they are and how autism affects them individually. And how they see and what I often call their lens of viewing the world. I have a thing where I say about it where it's like, to me, it's like mosaic art, right? Take something that's other people that looks broken. And from those pieces that when you drop something, it never breaks the same way. When you pick up those pieces to create something, you get these amazing different colors and shapes. And you get to see something and beauty in something and usefulness in something in a way that you never imagined when you decided to use those pieces and put those things together. So I actually did a whole piece about that on my personal IG page where I talked about that. And I think since I came to that realization, it's been a really good understanding and support about how I'm growing in myself with my son. And I think you all said something in the beginning that's very, very important. You all started the podcast talking about support and community and having people to bounce something off of. Not everybody has that. And for those who do, I'm also a subscriber to the It Takes a Village to get through this thing called life, whether you have a diagnosis or not. And I think sometimes we take that for granted. We're afraid, or whatever the reason is, we didn't have it. We don't know how to give it. There's all of these kinds of things that could play into that whole it takes a village and community aspect. And that's something that, I try to make sure that I create. If it doesn't exist, it only exists for a little while or a small period. Still, right? Figure out how to utilize that. Be grateful for it, because at the end of the day, you also mentioned another important point. It takes an incredible amount of patience.
Yes.
An incredible amount of patience. And if you're a person like yourself and like myself, and I'm sure like all of us on this discussion today, who is committed to personal self-growth, you will absolutely positively grow yourself through this process. And I've seen my relationship with my son transform in an amazing way that probably just even 5 years ago, I wasn't sure would have existed in the way that it does today. So this obviously is, a big passion of mine on my heart. And I'm, excited to, again, be here with you all, to have this discussion, to meet another kindred spirit in Miss Loc'd here with us today, and to hear her journey, because again, it's community, it's resources, so that we can support these folks, especially the ones who look like us, where the resources are often lacking.
Yeah. I want to share this because, since we're on the whole support thing and personal growth, I was bothered when I started doing my research with the videos I've been posting, the short reels and things that I've been posting about autism. And I came across a video on Twitter where these 2 young wrestlers, they were young. They're probably maybe 13, 14, between 13 and 15 years old, but they were young. So one of the wrestlers was autistic. You know, he was on the spectrum, and so the other wrestler was just a normal kid. So obviously, you know, it was an exhibition match set up for the other kid to lose. That was, you know what I mean, to give the win to the autistic child, right?
Oh
So it
wow.
was set up for that. But I thought it was beautiful, right? And this is just in my head because I don't know, maybe I just kind of think differently. I thought it was beautiful for the reasons of, I guess, on both sides. For the child that was not autistic, the I think it was good for him because it gives him a certain level of empathy at that age. It's starting them early to have compassion for people that may not have the same abilities or the same know-how that he may have, right? And for the autistic child, he just lit up after he won, right? He pinned the guy down. It took him a little while, you know, but I thought it was beautiful. And I was like, man, that's just so, but you know how the internet goes. So the internet wasn't feeling it. A lot of people in the internet wasn't. So you had half of the crowd saying, oh, that's messed up. Why would you do that to a child? That's perfectly fine. That's damaging his mindset. I'm like, but how? So now it takes me back to the conversation we're having about personal growth. Because again, you have some that are so gung-ho about winning, you know, that they forget about the personal growth aspect. And they'll just focus on just saying, forget everybody else, forget everything else. I'm here for the win. I'm here for the taking. That's my sole purpose, and I'm done. I'm in and I'm out. But then you have the other group that's just like, oh, that's so beautiful. That child is going to remember that for the rest of his life. You know, both sides going to be like, it was just so many positives to it. But there was still a large amount of people. And then with the amount of comments and the likes and the hearts on Twitter, you know, with people that was against it, I was like, man, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Well,
So what are your guys' thoughts about that?
I would like to weigh in on that.
Okay.
So one thing that I absolutely love that our district is very, very gung-ho about is the participation of the students in our self-contained classrooms in the Special Olympics.
Oh, that's nice.
So we have several Special Olympic activities that our students get to participate in, including basketball, bowling, track and field, and swimming.
Wow.
Swimming being my absolute favorite because hearing about students on the spectrum drowning just breaks my heart. And it's actually a very alarming number of autistic identified individuals who drown because of the sensory issues.
Right.
And some are nonverbal, so they can't cry out for help and things like that. So swimming is a very big deal for me with my babies and giving them that skill. In saying that, simultaneously, I see giving opportunities for our babies to participate in things that people believe they can't. So one thing that I really like is I don't say disabled. A lot of people say, oh, they're disabled. No, they're differently abled. They have a different ability and skill set. And something that, you know, giving a child an opportunity when they're first learning, I think that's with anything, with T-ball, with, you know, cheering. I'm a cheering coach at my school too. So it's like giving kids the opportunity, even any ability level, and giving them an opportunity to excel and have that opportunity where they can feel that win, no matter what their identification is or ability level is. That's a beautiful space to give that opportunity. Simultaneously, the thing that's really interesting and wonderful about individuals on the spectrum is they have things called savants. So a savant is someone who like just has this, some people call them the golden child, they call them proteges, you know, but they have this very amazing, innate, next level ability in an area. So we don't know if that child might have had that next level of, maybe they just loved wrestling and yes, give them the opportunity to experience and have the fun with it. But at the same time, we should also lean into actually helping them learn that skill, because we shouldn't say they something that they can't do. They do have the capacity to do it. We just have to figure out how we can tap into their way of learning that skill to help build them up, so that they're not seen as somebody less than that we need to give a win, because they can earn that win just the same. They can do it too. And I think that's the disconnect. Yes, give them a space to feel the joy of excelling, but don't take away their ability to actually gain the skills to genuinely go down and take you down. So that's what I like about us having, like with the swimming. Our kids practice. We have practices every month where they train at the YMCA and get actual training on how to swim. We don't just throw them in the pool and say, oh, stay in the shallow end and splash around and have a good time. No, we train them on actually how to swim. Not only is it a life skill, but then they compete and they have to win. Like we don't give them the win. We train them on the skills and then give them a space to compete. Yes, it is amongst peers that are similar to them, but each one has a different skill level. So I have some babies who they're fish in the water. They're going after it, and they know exactly how those skills are. And then others, they need the floaties. They need me to be behind them, holding them up, because they kind of rocks and they sink. They anchors. They sink right on down.
Yeah.
However, I don't have just the babies who are anchors staying in the shallow end. No, we still put them in the deep end, and we still help them along, and we still push them along and teach them the skills. So I think that's where sometimes those types of things bother me, is that, oh, we gotta just let them. Include them, yes. Include them in the spaces, please. But don't take away from their ability to actually win that thing, okay?
Right.
So that'd be my thing. Okay, I'm done. Okay.
That's good. You're muted, Free. You muted.
Sorry, I was saying I love that analogy. That was the same thing I was thinking, that, once we give them the platform and the ability to do so, for one, it does build their confidence, right? Feeling like I can win as well, that I'm equal, maybe different, but I'm still equal. So I still can do those things. And then, being able to take him down, like you said, he really could have been able to take him down. Now, maybe not particularly in that specific match, but, I think them being able to learn that, hey, I got this too, is essential, because they can learn. I think sometimes we take a label, right? I think in society, we have a bad habit of labeling people, and then just acting as if they can't rise above a label. Or if a label fully encompasses everything that is them, it's not. Just like us, per se, being African Americans doesn't fully contain just who we are. That is a major part of our identity, but we are so much beyond just this skin. Like, what else can we do? It doesn't limit what I can or cannot do.
Right. That's right. Laquan, you want to chime in?
I definitely see the benefits of both sides. So for me, I would never go into it just innately thinking that it's a negative thing. I think a lot of times how we view these kinds of things is what was our foundation at home around allowing people a space to accept diversity as it occurs in its many forms, not just diversity of, a particular healthcare diagnosis, but like Free said, diversity in terms of culture, diversity in terms of anything else that may make a person different from what your household looks like, right? And what you grew up. And so for me, I would never look at it like that. And I would not go on to a public space, to degrade the opportunity that they're and the intent behind what they were trying to do. Perhaps I would go privately to someone and say, hey, I think this is a great concept and a start to what you're doing. And if I had an idea that was contrary, that I think would serve the community, the individuals participating in that better, I would say, let's create a conversation around how we can do that, so that the most people can benefit from it, but also realizing that, it's a world and it's people, and no matter what you do, somebody's not going to like it. And it's just having to be accepting that somebody's not going to like what you do doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it that is their opinion, and they don't have to agree. Because the biggest thing around whether you use a term or how you view a specific situation like this is what was the intent of the individuals who did it. To me, that is more important than anything. What is the intent behind why you're choosing to do something? And if the intent is the right one, then we can overlook the nuances, again, from a growth perspective and a learning curve perspective, understanding that growth, again, does not look like this. Growth looks like this, right? The spectrum, the same way, it looks like this. It doesn't look the same for everyone. It's not linear in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So understand the intent. And I think we have to do more asking questions than we have to do making commentary about our own private, personal view of something, because when we ask questions, we'll get to the real answers.
Well, question. We have a question from our audience for our professionals. Okay. Do the professionals here believe that some kids that are told they have autism actually suffer from parents keeping them secluded by not letting them interact with other kids, or just by having them tablets and allowing them to watch YouTube all day?
Good question, Sam. Shout out to Sam Blue.
Shout out. Hey, Sam. And then there's one more portion to that before. And it says, I know a parent who didn't want her son to learn anything, so he would stay reliant on her. She felt it would keep him from leaving home when he got older.
So let me chime in on that one.
Which one? The first one?
I see I'm sorry?
That one or the other one?
Well, both of them in tandem, that last one in particular. I don't want to get ahead of myself for the podcast, but I'm a researcher at heart in terms of what I do and how it adds to this space. Okay. So I do a lot of formal research, like peer-reviewed research, plus research with people who are talking about things in this space. And a lot of what I've seen over the past year is individuals who are diagnosed on the spectrum with that issue. Parents are getting checks for children. Parents get, sometimes it is the people like to live, I'm trying to find the word, people like to live in a pity. And when you have a child who's on the spectrum, living in the space where it's a woe is me affords them some kind of attention that they're looking for. And so I've heard a lot of neurodivergent and individuals diagnosed on the spectrum saying, I'm coming of age, or I am of age, and I can't get out from up under my parents. They won't let me, either because they want the money, or they want some kind of touchy-feely woe is me thing related to their kid. And some people are just control. They just have an issue with control. Let's not negate that fact. And the individual feels like that they can have this level of freedom because they can do all of these things that are called daily activities of living that any average person can do or neurotypical person can do. But the parent won't give them that freedom to be able to do that. Right. And it goes back to, again, in the home, how are you taught and where does that come from? So that we ourselves do not become, that we are actually not the burden for our children and our loved ones who are on the spectrum. And we really work with them to what is freedom. And sometimes it is just that people fear what is out there and how, or parents fear what is out there and people not understanding their children. So they also are afraid from that aspect to let their children grow and go and allow them to be self-sufficient and self-reliant in the way that they best can. So there are a lot of dynamics that play into that particular question or comment. And it's just so much. We'll get into it in the next part of that, but it definitely is a challenge that exists. And there definitely is a lot of work that needs to be done in this space. And I'm sure Ms. Loc'd has some comments on that, working with children constantly every day in the classroom, especially those younger ones.
It really is unfortunate. I get paperwork that parents ask me to fill out for SSI. And I've literally had to tell parents, hey, I'm not going to lie for you. Your child does not have
What?
these you're saying.
Wow.
But that's not your job. You can't do that anyway, though, right?
I cannot do it. And I've, unfortunately, because parents, now, does their child have some things they need supported? 100%.
Right.
Is it autism? No, it's not autism. And I'm not going to tell these people on this paper that it's autism because you went to a doctor and said, hey, well, they really like cars. Well, they're 5. A lot of babies like things when they're 5.
Right.
They love Paw Patrol. They want everything to be Paw Patrol. Yeah, a lot of babies want everything to be Paw Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're on the spectrum because of that. And they're going to doctors who don't know what's going on with their child, and it's easier. So, like in the 90s, all the babies were diagnosed with ADHD. That was the new hot thing.
Yeah.
And so if your child had a little extra energy on them and you didn't know how to get them to sit down or whatever, throw every baby on Ritalin.
Mm-hmm.
Now in 2000s, we're seeing, exponential increases of the number of identifications on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I know when I started just 8 years ago, specifically working with children on the spectrum in the education setting, it was, I think, 40% or something identifications. Now it's like 60 to 70%. Like, it's ridiculous. Every year it goes up. And it seems to be the easier thing to do is to identify a student on the spectrum, identify a child on the spectrum when you don't know what's going on with them. And I literally will have to tell parents, I am not going to make up deficits for your child that do not exist. I can't do it. And I'm not going to limit your child like that. And you shouldn't want to limit your child like that. Yes, do they need some supports? Absolutely. And I'm sorry that the system is set up that they only can support a certain type of thing in a certain type of way. I am sorry. It shouldn't be like that. I'm not going to lie for you. And I'm not going to limit your child. I'm not going to do it. Now, I am going to work with you. Like she said, with that, be a part of your village to find out how to best support your child. I will 100% do that. Because I want your child to have the best and I want your child to be the best. So I'm going to figure it out. We're going to work on this thing together. We're going to process of elimination. We're going to just keep on trying. But what we're not going to do is keep on lying. That's what we're not going to do.
Okay.
That's right.
Because your child deserves better. And
in a lot of cases, and this is my personal experience. This is my opinion based on my experience. I'm an observer, right? I talk a lot. I tell people I talk a lot, but I watch this as much as I talk. So don't let me talk a lot fool you. Okay?
I like that.
A lot of what I see, and I don't just see, I'm saying this because I don't just see it when it comes to a diagnosis like autism, right? I see it as a general rule in some communities. I know I've had this conversation on a previous podcast in the background. Everything for me goes back to family tradition, family values, and what is going on inside your home. And when certain people, a demographic of people, do not have the personal bandwidth in their life, with their time, with their money, mostly with their time, right? They don't have the time to support and nurture and educate at home. We rely on so many outside sources, particularly the public school, heavily to give our children things that we should also be giving them at home, and that we should have started giving them at home before they even entered the public school system, which it was required. Because honestly, if it was up to me, and if I had had a choice when my children were young, I would have homeschooled both of them. But the reality of it is, at the time when I was married, both my ex-husband and I, when we were together, we both had to work. There was a time where I didn't because I was a student and I was going to school and the kids were young and that sort of thing. But the goal was to, unfortunately, have to get me back into the working place. So that limited. But there were still things that I tried to do at home with my children. Was it easy to do it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But there were certain things I was determined as a parent to be vested in with both of my children and to give them the opportunity. Does that mean everything's going to turn out perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. However, there's some personal accountability in that. And again, to what Ms. Locke said, the thing about that paperwork that comes from SSI, while we are professionals within our own scopes of practice as educators, as researchers, or whatever that may be, we're not medical professionals. So technically that paperwork is not asking us to diagnose anyone anyway. It's asking us to share if we have observed particular characteristics according to what the questionnaire is asking of you. Okay. And like she said, no, I absolutely am not going to say that this is what it is if I have not observed that. So there are a lot of challenges that impact each of these things. And again, it takes an individual deciding at home and from a personal perspective and from their at-home in-house family community to decide, regardless of a diagnosis, first and foremost with your child, what is being reminded of what my responsibility is, even though I have to do all of these other things. And I don't like saying just to survive, because we say that a lot, particularly in the Black community, to live and to thrive and to give our children the best of us that we can give. But if we don't figure out what that is for us first, we can't give them what we don't have. And that's the biggest challenge. We can't give them what we don't have. And a lot of times we can't see what we don't have because we're too busy trying to survive. So it becomes a cycle if we don't be intentional about the choices that we make on a personal level that have an effect on us, our generation. And many times the choices we make today affects future generations behind us that we won't see. And we forget that.
That's good stuff.
So I was trying to catch all that so I could put it on the screen. I was like, wait a minute, I missed something. But I think that's very important. Like you said, we can't give them what we don't have. But in that, we have to figure out how we fix it, right? And somebody that was a younger parent, I still realized that there was so much that I had to still give my daughter. Even though I was 24, I couldn't just be out there and going and partying. No, I'm a parent now. I have to switch gears. And I think that in our community at one point in time, I feel like some of our grandparents or our great grandparents, some people have some, young parents, they didn't have a lot of their own knowledge to impart. So they did rely on this system. But I think as we progress and the generations come, we have to realize we're at a point where we have access to the whole world in our hands. It's so overwhelming that we don't know how to decipher truth, falsehoods from truth, or how to maneuver to truly grow. And so I think a lot of us get stuck in this rut of not knowing where to go or how to maneuver. And so sometimes instead of fixing us, we appease children. Take this tab, go take this, go take that. And as we all y'all know Madison, Baby Magic. Okay.
Baby Magic. Yeah. Okay.
Talk. That tab, I don't know. That tablet's been MIA for about a year. I mean, it'll come and then it'll go dead. But I'd rather her talk to me than to just be on her tablet. I'm a nurse sometimes. I ain't always got patience. But I think that we have to figure out what's the small thing that we can do that's going to make a bigger impact. If we see that maybe we're going in a way where we're not giving all that we need to our children, because if everyone is having these concerns, whether it's on the spectrum or not on the spectrum, by the time you add additional pressures that can sometimes come from lack of understanding when dealing with the spectrum, not necessarily that the child is needing so much more, but sometimes I think it comes from parents not understanding, how do I help my child? So now they might be frustrated. The child potentially is frustrated. And then we want to make sure people don't get to the point where they're completely locked out of, how do I help my child? How do I control my own anger? Because maybe now I'm angry about it, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of times we don't understand. We have to process through our emotions. We have to accept that they exist, okay? Accept those feelings and then say, all right, I can't stay here. So how can I maneuver so that I am truly being the best parent that I can be, but also getting whatever services that my child may need, or that a family member may need, or that I see, if you're a teacher and it's another classroom and you're seeing that there's a need in that child, how can I do that extra step to assist someone else in my community?
And I think that was big from what Laquan was saying earlier, that patience. That's going to be key, because like you said, you may not know how, and I talk to my parents all the time. I'm like, yeah, you may not know how to support your child. I may not know how to support my child, support your child. We're going to figure it out together. Right. We're going to figure it out together. And it's going to be a challenge. And the thing that I love the most about working with my families and supporting these students is to see the growth, and to see when they're having breakthroughs, and to see, how they felt broken for a moment and they persevered and it got them to a point of breakthrough. And then they're feeling inspired and they're feeling encouraged to keep going. Right. And it's a test of patience. It is a test of how deep your love can go to really want the best for your child, and really to want the best for that loved one, and to empower them to want the best for themselves. It is a constant state of growth. I literally will stop in my class. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to support this baby today. Okay, let me breathe. Let me step back. Let me see what they need. Let me remember that they experience things differently. And let me see how I can tap into that. Let me see how I can connect with them today. And you're going to constantly have to stop yourself. If you are connected to anyone who has this different life experience, you're constantly going to have to stop yourself, to take yourself out of it, to really meet them at the point of their needs, so that they can also have a beautiful life experience, and so that you can find ways to connect with them. So it's constant, a constant state of being present, being grounded, being mindful. And you have to stay in that place. And especially when our parents have more than one child, and maybe your first child is quote unquote typically normally developing, and then you have this child with needs, you're like, what? What do I do now? The other one just kind of figured it out. Right. That's another thing that keeps me patient. Is like, hey, they've only been a person for like 8 years. Let me slow down, because I've been a person for substantially more than that, and I ain't got to figure it out. Why I can expect them to have figured out. They've only been a people for 8 years. Okay. Right. And then they're not having the same life experience that I am. I can't even begin to imagine. So that's when you start to, it's a state of rewiring your mind and your way of thinking, so that you can then relate to someone else. It's not all about you.
So I want to add this, and I want to add this before we transition into the podcast, because I want to get you guys' thoughts, right? I just recently, as I've been promoting the flyer, I came across a page. Excuse me, it's a page on autism. I can't remember the name of the page. I hate that, because I want to shout them out too, because they have a lot of good information. And the creator of the actual page, he shared a situation that happened between him and his family. So, and he was torn because of it. And I felt bad for him after he shared this post. But, a lot of us come from religious backgrounds, right? And maybe you guys may see where this is going. So some of us comes from super religious backgrounds, very traditional, very have your faith in God and that's all you need type tradition. You know what I mean? When meanwhile, everybody's faith isn't on the same level, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365, you know what I mean? So he shared a post about his family coming at him, and his church family that came at him. And they were telling him how all it is just a spirit, and how he just need to come to church more, and he needs to, these religious approaches to getting rid of autism. So I want you guys' thoughts on this, because I thought it was interesting. And I was hurt for him because I felt bad. Like people could really take religion to a different level where they belittle or completely ignore where a person really is in real time, and make a person feel like, well, even with all that I've learned, what are you saying? All that's irrelevant. You know what I mean? For the sake of just believing how you want me to believe, when clearly my faith ain't on that level. So how, first of all, you want me to believe like that? So it's like there's a whole process to certain things, but I want you guys' thoughts on that. And I thought that was interesting.
I'm gonna jump in right quick so that Laquan can really get into everything that she has and provide some real resources instead of pray it off. Like, listen, I love my people.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I will send a good prayer up, okay? For some things. It's just very interesting how certain believers will say, oh, creator, right? Whatever your creator is called, created things in certain ways, but yet I'm defective. How I was created, I was defective. I think there was purpose in it. And it should be about empowerment instead of deficiency.
Yeah.
Instead of, again, because my experience is not your experience. Now I'm defective. And how we say it's a spirit. Yeah, I done seen some spirits, y'all, okay? Don't get me wrong. I done seen some spirits and I had to pray about that thing. It's a lack of understanding. And that's why we need individuals like Laquan in the community to help provide resources and education, because there is a deficit, especially in the Black community, and especially in a lot of communities of color. I literally had a parent tell me, my child will not be in your classroom. Your child need a classroom like mine because they got these sensory needs and they need somebody who's going to try to reach them at the, your child need to be in a regular classroom because ain't nothing wrong with your child. Okay. And your child in the regular classroom, lost, overwhelmed, overstimulated, and not flourishing because you have a problem. You have a lack of understanding. You think that it's just going to go away. And that's not how this works. It doesn't go away. You find ways to self-regulate and be self-empowered, but that is not, it's not something that needs to be changed. It's something that needs to be embraced. It's something that you need to be educated on. And it's something that we need to help empower individuals and who they are to be the best versions of themselves. And it's really disheartening when we guise judgment, lack of understanding, and our own feelings of discomfort under religious masks in the name of spirituality, and because that ain't it.
That's not it.
So that's all I'm gonna say. I'm off the because I know she's gonna have something good for the people that they need.
Yeah. And we're gonna make
past that and educate the folks and help them so they ain't so cut it out, people.
Yeah. And we're gonna transition to after Laquan's response, and then we'll start the podcast after that, and we'll bring Loc'd back to close us out as well. So she has some beautiful poetry pieces, phenomenal singer, phenomenal person. You guys are going to enjoy that. So y'all stay tuned for the end of this too. All right, go ahead, Laquan.
All right, so I'm gonna do my best to make it brief so we can start the transition. There's so much to unpack in what Loc'd just said, right? There is the thing that she said that is the biggest piece, is that particularly in the Black community, we don't see mental health diagnosis, particularly a cognitive diagnosis, as diagnoses. When you layer that with spirituality and scripture, and if you really have read the Bible, one of the things people tend to harp on is the fact that there were these healings by God and prophets. And so that's where we get into the aspect of we can just pray it away. And people don't realize when you get into reading and understanding scripture that those individuals who were given ability to heal people had a purpose, and it wasn't designed to be sustained for forever in humanity, on top of the fact that the Bible was written to tell us that we are imperfect individuals, and imperfection comes in many forms.
Yes.
And it so may happen that the imperfection is related to a health care diagnosis, which includes mental health.
Right.
So telling people that you gonna go to church and pray things away, that ain't the church or the spirituality that I subscribe to. So let me just go ahead and put that on the record. Okay. Not only we believe in getting help where help is needed for any condition that ails the body. The mind is a part of the body. It is the most important part of the body. And it is the part of the body that really, when you study science, my background, that controls everything. Your mind will tell you if you're going to live or die, and your body will follow if you don't have your mind under control. But in a case where you have a specific diagnosis, because the brain is different than how we typically see it, you get into a whole realm of something else. So, I'm like you, I'm saddened to hear that this is the case. And hopefully this individual can reach out, come in contact with, because it sounds like that they're doing some growth work by the fact that they're even having this conversation, and they will have somebody on their page who can help direct them, and they will see it, because lots of times lots of comments go in. So it may get overwhelming if he's the individual that's himself that's on the spectrum versus if he may be talking about a child. I wasn't sure about that, with your setup in the scenario, but that he comes across some information that he can see in real time. And that if we're going to put God and spirituality in this in any way, that God will direct him to see the comment that he wants to see, to be able to get the help, the support, the resources that he needs to manage his life in the best way that he can for him. The last thing I'm going to say is that we forget that what is success, what is rich, what we define as success and as rich looks different to each and every individual, whether you have a diagnosis of some health sort or not. What my definition of success is, I promise you, is probably different than the two of you, as well as Miss Loc'd, right? I have a really good friend. Her definition of success, when I tell you it's on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm going to use the spectrum word a different way. Her definition of success and my definition of success are miles apart. But that doesn't impact our friendship, because we understand and respect that. And we have to do the same thing, particularly in the autism spectrum and neurodivergence community. We have to respect that what success looks like for one person is not going to look the same for somebody else, because it's going to be based on their definition. And it's also tied to innately what every person's individual innate or developed ability is. Because some things we just have, like Loc'd mentioned, the savantness that comes for some persons on the spectrum, but some of us can develop talents where we have an interest and a desire to learn and grow, and it's no different there.
Absolutely. I think that these conversations are the ones that need to take place. Until we have these conversations, then we're going to be stuck in a certain mindset until someone else is like, hey, have you thought about it this way? Because a lot of times all it takes is someone pivoting you to think in a wider or a broader aspect, the way you might not have ever thought about, or you've never come into contact with someone that had this different thought pattern or had a different brain per se and processed differently. So, for us to gear up into fully switching over to your segment, I would like us to just go over some terms that are just very familiar for anyone that has come into contact with anyone that is considered to deal with autism spectrum disorder or neurodivergent, just so everyone can know potentially in our conversations specifically what we're talking about. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was, what is the autism spectrum disorder? So I'm going to put, sorry guys, you're not going to see their faces for a couple seconds, just because I want you, so some people are visual. So some people, work better by reading it themselves, but I just wanted to go over some key terms. So when we're looking at autism spectrum disorder, and all this information, okay, was obtained from the Black Book Experience blogs, guys, okay? She'll tell you more about those later. But autism spectrum disorder is a development disability caused by differences in the brain. So some people with ASD have have a known difference, such as a genetic condition. Other causes are maybe not known. So it just kind of goes in a little bit further to let you know that how little or how much a person can be affected by the condition. But it's generally something with the autism spectrum disorder that requires a actual medical diagnosis. The difference with neurodiversity is a term that is coined to describe people with a particular set of differences, but it's not necessarily a medical diagnosis. That is the single most important thing to know and to understand. The word and the differences are associated with when dealing and talking about autism. So I love the fact that Loc'd on her website had this specific thing. Take a moment to break down the word. Neuro means brain, diversity means difference. We put that word together, neurodiversity together, it literally means a different brain. So neurodiversity applies to several other conditions, even such as ADHD, Tourette's, and other things as well. So did I miss anything? Did I get it pretty good? I know your blogs went very much so in depth, but I was trying to give a good snapshot of autism versus neurodiversity.
Those are some great pieces that you picked out from there. Definitely hits the nail on the head to help people understand what the key differences are and how we use them, and again, how to think differently when the words are used. So that's very important. So thank you. Yes.
Okay. And then last thing, guys, before we let Laquan go in, one of the quick things that Lamoy even found when dealing with those that could potentially be on the autism spectrum, there are certain things that they may do or ways that they may process, and it's essential for us to understand what they are and what they mean. So specifically, a meltdown, it's an emotional or behavioral response to an overwhelming situation. A lot of kids melt down, so more so than just those that are on the spectrum, but it's something to understand. It's a key thing that happens with those on the spectrum sometimes. Elopement, running or wandering away from a safe person or place. Prosody is the notion of pitch, volume, and inflection used when speaking. Scripting, repeating words or phrases heard in an environment or on TV shows or videos. Preservation, getting stuck on a thought, action, or activity and being unable to mentally shift gears. I know I've personally seen that so many times in children, even those that are not on the spectrum, but when they're not able to just fully switch over, or sometimes when we overthink as adults and we're not able to just let it go and move past it. Stimming, a repetitive motor motion or sound. Expressive language, a language we can express with. Reflective language, language we can understand. And executive function, skills that allow us to plan, remember, organize, and regulate ourselves. Those are some of the key terms that a lot of times those with on the spectrum will deal with, or some of the terms that will help us understand potentially maybe what we're seeing or what they may be going through or displaying at that moment.
Yeah, and those are really good definitions because, like you said, a lot of people that aren't even on the spectrum could relate to most, if not all of those definitions. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's so we're not far off. I think again, autism shines a light. It shines a light on human behavior, as in like how we are to be, like for the parents, for an example, the way that parents have that empathy and that patience and that love and nurturing side. Like I think all of these things bring us back to our own like self-reflection. If I'm trying to make it make sense, it brings us back to our own self-reflection, where we have to look at ourselves and say, well, hey, how could I gauge myself compared to what I have to learn to like change my ways to be able to cater to this person because of their needs? Like, where am I in that gauging moment? You see what I'm saying? And
absolutely,
it's definitely a beautiful thing because of that, man. And I mean, you can't look at it anything less than because it's all about self-reflecting at the end of it all. So yeah, it's good stuff, good definitions.
So now you all have been, preliminarily, maybe that's the correct word, introduced to Laquan. But this is going to be the official introduction to Laquan Black, who is the founder of the Black Book Experience, which is the primary reason we are here discussing and digging into the autism spectrum disorder so that we can support. So Autism Support in Action. We want Laquan to tell us about herself, and just so we can get all this good information and kind of just know more about her.
So once again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on and for me to be able to share who I am and what I do with your audience and with the community. We are a new business, the Black Book Experience. We just started in the last quarter of 2022, and it was really born, again, as I mentioned earlier, out of having a child myself on the spectrum. So I won't get back into that because I've already shared that with the audience. And so out of that and the challenges that arose, that I really wanted my son to be successful. I really wanted him to be the best person, individual, best steward over his life, and best steward of society, much the same way I wanted for myself and my first child. So as I just sort of looked back over the years, I've always had this thing in me that I said, I feel like I want to share this. This journey is difficult, right? Mm-hmm. But as a parent, I want to be successful, right? And as I went to meeting after meeting, after I talked to provider after provider, as I read resource after resource, as I navigated, each year of his education. And by the way, my son is now 17. He'll be 18 this year. He's graduating from high school.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Going to college next fall. So we are working on that. And in every step of the way, there was a new challenge. And it was a challenge that I had never experienced before, never seen before, because we know about the typical ones and we grew up ourselves with the typical ones. And as I looked at how many people, particularly who looked like me and my son, were affected, I kept going, this is something I want to share with other people. I want other people to have the level of success that they can have within their own families, with their own children, and to not have their children where possible, right? Because we always say, can I prevent somebody else from some of the difficulties that I faced? Right. And what can I do from that? Because we face some really, really, really hard challenges, that I won't get into for the sake of this podcast. Mm-hmm. But again, out of that came so much learning, so much growth and experience for him and me. And again, we are in a great place. Is it perfect? No, because life is not perfect. And so I happened to be going downtown Greensboro on one of my self-care days for a festival. It was a beautiful sunny day. I walked into a bookshop and it sort of hit me like a light bulb that I need to do something related to books and experience. So the name really comes out of, first of all, my last name is Black. So it's kind of a double entendre, right? Mm-hmm. Connecting, again, even though this business is cross-cultural, again, the emphasis is on making sure we're here to support the Black community first and foremost. Because when you look at everything else, it doesn't look like us. And I want us to be able to come to this space and feel like we belong and we can be open, we can connect. And I don't say I have clients, I say these are my families that I'm working with, right? If you're a business partner that I'm working with, then obviously you're a business partner. But if I'm working with other individuals who have children and family members on the spectrum, then I'm saying we're families connecting with family. My family of the Black Book Experience is connecting with your family to create community. Mm-hmm. And so the part of it that is the book, which you'll see in the second B, if you notice, it's kind of a little open book there. It's very intentional. When I have my logo written, I specifically wanted a book to be in there. And the person who did my logo, the graphic designer who did my logo, did an amazing job. He came up with this all on his own. We tend to not have the time, don't take the time. And there's a saying that goes, if you want to hide anything from Black people, put it in a book.
Put it in a book.
So our goal is to provide you with the support and the education and the tools, not just through books and education, through learning. We're using all mediums because there's so many mediums to be able to teach and share and support with people. But that is a primary way, because whether you have it in a book or whether it's on a screen, there is some level of reading involved, and we want to sort of get back to the basics and the foundation of that, and to make it an experience for you, not just another chore. Are there going to be times where it's going to be difficult? Absolutely. But we're here to support you and navigate you through that process. And the biggest thing is we look at you and your family, or I look at you and your family where you are, where your child is, not in comparison to anyone else. So the idea and the goal is to create the kind of community that you need through various tools and resources that's going to support your loved one on the spectrum.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like the creative wordplay with incorporating Black in the Black Book experience.
Mm-hmm.
The whole background of it, I think it's just dope. It's dope.
Absolutely. I noticed the book yesterday. Like I've been looking at it for a while, and I was like, that B is different. And I just happened to like literally sit here and stare, and I was like, it's a book. And it's like the light is on above the book, and I was like, I got it. A little special, because we've been talking about a Black book experience for a long time. But I was able to like literally just kind of step away and just be like, oh, I like it. Like it made sense, but it makes me also realize how much we don't slow down to notice the things that are right in front of our face.
Yeah.
So I think that is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's dope. So in the Black Book experience, what kind of coaching and training do you provide? Let's get into that.
So the coaching and training is multi-layered, and it is from wherever the point your child is diagnosed through adulthood. So I don't just focus on little children or teenage children or young adults, because again, I've navigated this whole process with my son as we're going into adulthood for him. And so just like your child is on a spectrum, right? We want to look at them through the spectrum of life as well. And the goal is to create plans that grow with them, which means your plan is also going to grow and change the same way the plan would grow and change for anyone, even if you had a neurotypical child, what is called neurotypical. And just to give you a definition of that, that's a word you'll see a lot when you do research, and neurotypical versus atypical. And neurotypical means, again, brain normal versus atypical. A usually means without or not typical. So in terms of that, the goal is really to create a plan for families based on where their child is. And we center that based on starting with the parents or the guardians or whoever the responsible individual is if the child is underaged, right? So we'll work with you if you need to work with you through your parents, or if you're a young adult. And again, like we talked about earlier in the first half of our discussion and meeting today, if you're a young person who wants to figure out how to live life on your own, and I realize I have to be very careful in that space given what we talked about, because my goal is not to circumvent parents. Right. But my goal is, if a person is an adult and they have a right to seek out any sort of services, we're here to help and to support them. So what that looks like is we offer several things. That's, again, individual and family coaching. There are some aspects of the business that are paid, and then there's some things that we'll be doing for free. So the coaching, is part of a package. And some free things that we will be doing. There will ultimately be a Facebook group and space. There will be things like free communities and clubs. So individuals get to practice their social skills, which is a big part of autism, not getting the social cues and the social norms, which is why they do things like scripting and the definition, that chart that you gave, or so that if they're overwhelmed by stimuli, they do what is called stimming, which you mentioned. And stimming is a way for them to try to control when they've been overstimulated. It gives them an opportunity to be able to practice those skills in a safe place. Ultimately, I want to have people who are not on the spectrum as part of those groups. Like one of them will be an anime club. So we're centering our clubs around things that typically persons on the spectrum, have a high interest in. Because like we mentioned before, typically they have something that they like or they want or they like to talk about repetitively once they know it. For instance, anime is one of those things. One of those other things are art. For instance, my son's thing is art, right? He's currently in an art club at the high school that he goes to. So we'll have an art club, and art may look different for everyone else. As you all know, being artists yourself and that being near and dear to your heart, arts come in many forms. It's drawing, it's writing, anything creative that they want to do, creating community around that so that they have a safe place being who they are, practicing those skills, interacting with people who also have a similar skills. And by that, we're doing two things. We're giving them the ability to practice their socialism and understand because they oftentimes don't get typical social cues. Then we also give people who are not on a spectrum by inviting very selected individuals. They will be screened. We'll just not be letting anyone in. We also give the public the opportunity, when they have interest in those areas, to connect and be in the room, in the space, to have conversations and to do different activities. And they get to learn what it is like to interact with individuals on the spectrum so that they themselves learn tools and ways to interact so that they can then take that out into the community and share it with other people. And then ultimately on the business side of that, because again, these individuals have very, very specific skills, again, like art and drawing. My son's thing is what I like to call it, is he's an artist and he wants to do concept game design. So that's what he's going to be going to school for. Awesome. Research tells us that 80% of individuals on the spectrum who have employable skills are unemployed. That is not acceptable. And how do we bridge that gap? And one of the things that I will be working on under this business is to reach out and make connections with organizations that offer positions that are in these niche areas, if you will, that they have a variety of special skills in, and creating sort of an HR packet if you will, that focuses on ADA compliance, and them being able to create job descriptions, review resumes so that they don't get knocked out in the electronic process. When they get interviews, teaching them how to screen for and interview these people so that they don't get knocked out in the interview process. And on the same token, I'm also coaching the persons on the spectrum with how to navigate and talk about their skills in the interview so that the focus is on what they can do and not what their diagnosis may be. And if they need accommodations in the workplace to be able to do that, and the accommodations can vary, and again, that's individually focused, then we can train these individuals who have these businesses and these organizations to be able to support and be inclusive of these individuals, to have them in their businesses who can do a phenomenal job, even though their strength may not be the social aspect. They can do phenomenal artwork. They can do whatever the other job skill is. They can do it phenomenally. We just need to give them the opportunity, the tools, and support ongoing to be able to sustain them with that so that they're making more than a minimum wage. They need to make a livable wage just like anybody else they would have typically hired for the position.
Yeah, that's good. You know, go ahead, Free, go ahead.
No, go ahead. All I had to say was absolutely.
I went to the what about the last month? I went to what is the artist name? Is it Van Gogh?
Van Gogh.
Vincent Van Gogh.
They were touring. They had the museum here in Raleigh. And they
I missed that. I know what you're talking about, the Van Gogh experience. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, I learned so much about that guy and mental health, and you know, and how a lot of what he went through with the because I believe he was autistic. I think he autistic.
So it's a thing it's a thing that says that they feel like he would have been considered to be on the spectrum.
He would have been.
But him, a lot of the artists,
they
even say Michelangelo would have probably been considered autistic as well.
But it's just interesting how years later his art comes back up and it resurfaces, and people start to see the brilliancy in his brain, like how his mind actually was able to take certain colors that traditional artists wouldn't take and textures that they wouldn't take, and how he was able to merge all of those things together to create the type of art that he, and his inspiration was founded in Japanese art. Because if you watch traditional Japanese art, you'll find a lot of similarities in like the way that his art was actually formed. But he he was autistic. I would say he was on the spectrum. I would say, well, he'd be considered to be on the spectrum, but he was schizophrenic. Schizophrenic is what it was. And there was a situation where they were talking about how he got into a fight with his friend, one of his friends, and he cut his own ear off, after his friend punched him in the mouth. So he was so upset, he took a knife and cut his own ear off. And I was like, that's interesting. But then again, if you look at his art, it's beautiful, and that whole Van Gogh experience, how they were able to bring his art to life with, technology today. And you see the artwork displayed on the walls, but then the artwork is actually moving and it's in motion, and like all of his art came to life. It was beautiful, man. It's dope. It's dope. Y'all missed it.
I'm gonna have to find it in another city because it's
you had to catch it because it's
I want to go now too. I'm like, you told me afterwards, Lamoy. Like I
move in silence for that. I don't, I move in silence. But anyway,
okay, this is why I know him, because of stuff like this. He don't tell me this.
There are a number of individuals from historical history who have made significant contributions that since the diagnosis of autism have come in play, have been suspected to be autistic or on the spectrum. Albert Einstein is also one of those. Individuals on the spectrum have this very innate ability to look at something that they have an interest in and focus on it for hours and hours and days and days and days and weeks and months at a time, the way a typical person, you and I, could not. Even if I love something and I absolutely adore it and I think it's the best thing since sliced bread, there is a limit for me to how much I can devote myself into it and focus on it and zoom in. And also the way that their brains process information. Plus, when you couple it with that ability to intensely focus for days, weeks, hours, and months at a time, they will figure out a way how to fix it. My son, for instance, his dad is a computer genius, in my opinion. He really knows what he's doing when it comes to a computer. My son didn't get any of that per se, but when he wants to do something, he'll figure it out. My son built a computer to game on.
Awesome.
To play games on. I just ordered something that's coming for him next week.
Wow.
He's like, oh, Mom, I saved this money. Can you order me this video card? Because the video card that I have is not fast enough to process the game and it's lagging. And he goes through all these terms that I heard his daddy say when we were married. And I was like, whoa, wait, whoa, what? In addition to his art, that's one thing I've learned about him over the years. If it's something he wants to do, he can do it. If he doesn't want to do it, he can't process it. But that's different than a way for me than if I have to force myself to do something, let's just say, because I have to do it for work. And it's all about tapping into their experiences and tapping into who they are and allowing them space and the creativity and the exposure to be able to do that. And I realize there are often limiting things in our personal lives as parents that prevent them from doing that. But we have to make the effort, because sometimes when we make the effort, other opportunities and resources open up so that we can do that. And again, that's sort of the premise behind the whole business, is really connecting with families and helping them, again, with the resources and the tools to find ways. It's not an overnight process, because nothing that works well ever is, right? And nothing great ever just comes out of it. May start as a quick idea, but it takes time and thought and resources to process it. And so that's what we're here to do, to help you tap into your child or your loved one, to help you connect with that and to help us figure out where they are and take them from where they are to grow them the best that they can be in that space, because that also gives them dignity as a human and as an individual. And we all deserve to have our dignity and to have a certain amount of respect and not, feel like somebody is going to treat us a certain kind of way that's diminutive because they may be aware that we have a diagnosis, or if some aspects of our diagnosis are obvious.
So you touched on something that was amazing when you were talking about your son putting together the computer. I have a nephew, while not on the spectrum, literally, my sister-in-law, she might get me for this, but when he was younger, he wasn't doing what he's supposed to do. She demonstrated on when his PS4 or something like that why he wouldn't have it. Okay, and he took all the pieces and put it back together until it worked. Now, so for me, I was just like, that's just how intelligent you are. You were like, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna take all these little shattered pieces and I'm gonna figure it out. So sometimes we, again, like you said, we limit people. Like, you have this diagnosis, you can't do this. Why are they not just both as great? And even one is just on the spectrum and one is not. It doesn't mean that they can't grow. That's really the push of the different, not less. Because given that space, that opportunity, your son was like, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna create this own space myself because I'm gonna save this money because I want to do this. I want this. I see this end goal. And so acknowledging that and then looking at someone like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is autistic.
Yeah, he was recently diagnosed. Yeah.
Right. So when you think about, like you said, how they can just get stuck on something and they have to figure it out. They don't stop until they figure it out, until he's figured out this plan or how to obtain something else. They even say Bill Gates might be considered autistic. I don't think Bill Gates.
Steve Jobs, they said too, possibly.
I can see that. Because and they were even saying like Bill Gates has this rock that he does and the way he does his voice and his inflection. And it's just interesting to think like some of the actors that we see, the guy from Ghostbusters,
Dan Aykroyd. He's autistic. He's on the spectrum.
That we see. And I think that we've gotten to the point, and I think even when Loc'd said it, you know, for the 90s, it was ADHD, right? Oh, you got ADHD, you got too much energy, you got this, you got that. The perspective of obtaining a label is like, to our community, sometimes like it's deafening, like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. No, it's not. It just means we have to maneuver. We have to learn how to maneuver differently and understanding that it's okay to maneuver. It's okay to pivot. You know, I think we get so stuck in, we want this house with the white picket fence. And though we know life is difficult, right? We know we might not get it. It might be a purple house with a pink fence, you know. We started saying, okay, well, I can understand this difference, or I can understand this difference, instead of understanding that whatever milestone comes is ours to bear, right? So I think we have to apply that to the babies too, or even the adults, because they become functioning adults that can work and do what they need to do. Like, a lot of us don't like certain things, so we generally don't do those things, or we figure a way around it. And so I think we just have to realize like they're just as equal. You know, regardless. It's not saying they can't do anything. Look at Elon Musk. Look at Dan Aykroyd. Like, didn't stop them from doing anything or making millions or billions of dollars. So how do we mind shift our community? Like, do we need to look at, or do we need to debunk the myth that maybe it's purely genetics? Is it considered genetics? Like, how do we change that stigma?
So, you know, that's a multi-layered approach. And I'm always going to go back to the same thing. It has to start with a person being in a position where they're ready to accept a mind shift and a change. And that's one of the things that, as part of the process that I've developed to work with families, is to first look at the parents first, right? And say, where are you? And let's talk about where you are. Let's talk about how you viewed this diagnosis. Let's talk about everything that happened around the diagnosis. And let's be honest about how you felt when it first occurred. Because again, particularly in the Black community, the biggest issue is we already have a ton of stigma. We already have a ton of things that knock us down, if you will, right? And they're not self-imposed. They come from other aspects of society. We all know what that is, so no need to get into that. Then when you add the possibility that my child may have a diagnosis that's going to be further limiting, it gets to be a lot for some of us to bear mentally and emotionally, because no parent wants to think that this child that I created that came from me is not going to be like me in the way that I expected them to be like me. So it's first wanting to change, getting out of what your own expectation is, because so often as parents, We put on them what we want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't put on them who they show us they are as little individual people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are developing in the first, by the time a child is 5, research says that they have settled into their personality. Whatever you've done, whatever nature and nurture has done to create the dynamic and shape the mind of that individual, which is why children can learn languages really well between up until the ages of 3 and 5. And then after that, they kind of lose the ability to learn multiple languages, because we've had a hand as parents in forming and shaping that. And I realize that there are some aspects, particularly where Black households and dynamics are concerned, where we have more challenges in terms of time freedom and resources and exposure to other things than some other cultural communities have. But we still have to do what we can to expose them as much as we can. But I think too oftentimes we get caught up in a rat race. I sure know I did.
Yes.
I made in the last 6 years, I've made immense changes to the financial aspect of how I support my family now as a divorced mom raising a child on the spectrum, right? And none of those changes were easy, but there were a lot of conversations that I had to myself. Somebody said it earlier, I'm not going to call them out, but they can call themselves out if they want to. I have whole conversations with myself. I talk to myself and I give answers, and we talk this thing through. And I have a meme that I posted a while ago that said, if you see me talking to myself, myself, and I, we in a meeting, leave us alone till we stop talking. Because I'm committed to, at some point I said to myself, regardless of what is going on and what my requirement is externally, I have an obligation and a responsibility to this person who I brought into the world because he didn't ask to be here. And what am I willing, I'm not going to say sacrifice. What am I willing to do and accommodate to allow him to be the best, most happiest person? Because I also remember a point in my life where I was not allowed to be who I was trying to be and who my mind and personality and body was telling me to be. Now, how can I take this situation and learn from that and do something different? And that's often the hard and challenging part, where, again, we need a community. And this is a way of you getting community, even if you only tap initially into the resources that are free for you. That's way to get started, but you have to make a commitment and be willing to stick to it, right? And say, let's move forward so I can give my child the best life possible based on who they show me that they are. Because oftentimes we don't even get a chance to pay attention to who our child is because we're too busy trying to get through day to day.
Yeah. I want to let me say this real quick because I'm getting a lot of hits right now about but I'll wait till we're finished. This is about the actual location that we were supposed to be at today, but we ended up going virtual and we sent the information out. I sent the update out yesterday, and even with people that bought tickets, I gave everybody a refund. So we decided to go virtual today, and we sent the details out and all that yesterday, but I think a lot of people missed that, and I want to say I apologize for anybody that missed the memo, because we have a lot of people that showed up at the actual venue today, which we're definitely appreciative that, you guys showed up and you guys are showing that support.
Absolutely.
So we apologize for that. But yeah, we'll pick back up on it next month, the first Friday of next month. We've been having a lot of issues, like I said, going back and forth with Facebook and social media, period, where I haven't been getting noticed or anything. It's just been a lot. I've been restricted on social media, and I've been figuring that out within the last month and a half or so. So I do apologize for that. But we'll pick back up next month because I think we're in the green now. So yeah, I do apologize. I got this, PSA real quick.
Sorry, we were getting text messages, so I was like, Limo.
Yeah, because Free sending me stuff. I'm getting text messages, and I'm just like, let me say something real quick. All right. So, but go ahead. We'll pick it back up. We'll pick back up on that afterwards. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But Laquan, I think you've said some great things, like giving our kids the life that they're showing us that they want and they deserve, and not what we think that they're capable of obtaining. Because they won't always have us. I mean, as much as we want to say we'll be here forever and always, we know that there's a time we have to help them be as independent as possible. And I think that even goes back to something that Sam Blue had said about some parents limiting what their kids can do. And spectrum or a non-spectrum child. Those are things that are essential. And also what you said about obtaining assistance. I know that the Black Book Experience does offer multiple layers of assistance. And I would love for you to expand on that, because some people just get stuck once they get that diagnosis. Like, where do I go? What do I do? And I know that that is captured in blog number 1, guys. Okay. So y'all make sure, okay, that you go to the website, theblackbookexperience.com. Don't even worry about it. I'm going to drop the information below.
Drop it in the drop it in the
Facebook,
comments.
the IG. Because I mean, I've even reached out to Laquan, like, hey, I know somebody. What do we do? Because all I knew was, hey, I can get you contact with somebody. And I think that that's important for people to know. Like, we've talked about the greatness of how to change the mindset, how to gear up to accept, move through, and process. But how do we get started when that diagnosis is first given?
Okay. So one of the things I didn't say early on that I'll say again, just to make sure, we talk about a lot of medical things, but we are not medical doctors. I am not a medical doctor. So my support and what we do and how we support you all is not from the perspective of telling you what to do medically. It is to share resources with you, either direct you to resources that if you feel your child needs a diagnosis, we'll absolutely help support you in that direction. But once you have a formal diagnosis, where do you go from there? Because the doctor is going to may offer you a whole lot of things to do. And a lot of times people are often afraid to ask providers questions because they feel like it's challenging them. When at the end of the day, you are a patient who's paying for a service. And if you're paying for a service, it is absolutely okay to ask questions, right? And say, I'm not clear about all of these technical terms that you're using. Please explain to me why you're asking me to put or recommending me to put my child on this medication, right? And that's a big thing. We talked about that earlier with the Ritalin, and in the 80s and 90s, that sort of being a very, very big thing for people to do. There's lots of potential drugs out there to put children on, and a lot of them are associated with ADD and ADHD and the regulation of that. But at the end of the day, it is up to you whether you decide to accept a recommendation, for example, of your provider doing that or not. And then we can talk about, if you don't understand, you don't want to ask them, then that's part of what we can do in our conversation. I don't pretend to have every single solitary answer for every single situation. But what I can do on top of what I already know and have access to and experience with is, again, the researcher side of me, to go and look at what those options are, to break those things down for you. Because what my background is, and there is also on my TikTok and on my YouTube page, there is some explanation more in depth of what I do and what my background is. But my background is in healthcare administration, all the way up to the master's degree level. And I have a master's degree in health informatics and analytics. And that is ultimately a research degree in healthcare, right? Looking at all aspects of healthcare from the IT perspective onto the medical side workflow. And then looking at, what is the incidence? Incidence is a clinical term, not a clinical term. It's more of a industry term. But how often do you see this diagnosis? Where do you see it? What kind of medications are they typically using? Like looking at the numbers and that kind of thing all around that. What does it look like in this part of the country? What does it look like for this culture? How many people in this culture may be diagnosed with it? Right now, as a whole, the CDC says that 1 in 44 persons is diagnosed with medication. 1 in 44. And like Ms. Loc'd said earlier, that is up significantly from 10 to 15, even 20 years ago, when it was closer to 1 in 100 people. Now you're saying, something different. So it's increasing, and there's a lot of reason around that, right? And it could be a lot of reason, like she said, is people filling out paperwork along with people lying. You can get into that whole thing. But there are people who legitimately have that. And so again, the whole goal around that is to make sure we provide you with support services so that you understand and you can put this, you can move this diagnosis into your everyday life out of the habit of just saying, you know, my child is sick or they have an issue. And mind you, my son had many, many health issues. The autism was not the only thing. So we've been through a litany of transitions when it comes to my son's health. He had a number of chronic health conditions that we were dealing with, which is another reason why I'm very, very proud of my son and the growth that he has made, right? And so how do we integrate that into everyday life? And how do we create practicality around it, scheduling around it, thoughts most importantly around it, so that when the challenges come up, just like with any other kind of challenges, we go boom. I either know already what to do because we're connected with the Black Book Experience and the resources, or I know I can go to Loc'd at the Black Book Experiences and we can say, hey, let's figure out what to do with that as part of our monthly coaching check-in or whatever it is, however it is we've set up to support you.
Okay. You getting everybody geared and ready to go. I mean, I love that though. You want to talk to someone that is passionate about it, especially if you're in a space where you don't feel knowledgeable, when you're trying to obtain it, you have that thirst for that knowledge, and somebody's saying, hey, I got you. This is what we're going to look at. This is what we're going to do. If you have a question, maybe ask your provider this. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you, hey, I don't know it yet, but this is how we can, go on to finding the answer. So Laquan, I have another question for you. So we found this chart, and I just wanted to go over it really, really fast. And it says what it looks like, and it shows this array of different things, and it talks about this is what autism looks like. So I found this is supposed to actually be an autistic chart. Do you find that this makes a lot of sense?
It's funny you asked that, because I remember when I saw Lamoy post this as part of a video for an explanation from an actual TikToker who is on the spectrum. And that individual took this chart, and when you go from the center of the chart out into the edges of it, then the way I read the individual using the chart was, when you go from the center to the outer edges, it means from the center is less and from the outer edges is more. Absolutely. And this is where we get into why autism looks different for everyone, because you can have an individual diagnosed and they have issues around, or they have connections to all of the things on this chart, or they have connection to some of the things on the chart. And then, for example, when you have something like social difficulty for me, it's the bottom right of the chart. When you have something like social difficulty, it can be towards the center, which means they don't have much social difficulty, or it could be all the way out to the end, which means social difficulty is a big thing for them, right? Poor eye contact is the same thing on the opposite side of that chart. That is a very, very common piece that persons on the spectrum have. They don't do well at eye contact, and so you think you're being ignored. My son was like this a lot when he was young. He could not be watching you, not make eye contact, and hear everything you said and could repeat it to you verbatim, and you would think he was ignoring you. I had to be careful about conversations that I had, because he would repeat them verbatim later on when he was talking. Mom, I heard you say, and he was only like I said, he could do this even before he was diagnosed. And I was like, I used to always think, how could he do that? Right.
So he was doing scripting, like repeating it.
Yes, he could repeat it, but he was not only just repeating it, because scripting means that they're trying to emulate something that they themselves don't have. It's most often associated that. Not only was he scripting in terms of repeating, but he had cognitive connection to the information, which means he understood it and could process some of it.
He was applying it. Okay.
Yeah. So it was a combination of both. It was a combination of both for him. So any individual could have all of those pieces, and the level of it can be different from person to person. And using just that chart alone, you could come up with millions and millions of combinations of how someone could be affected. So I think it's one of the best charts that I've ever seen when I came across it. So I appreciate him sharing that, because I hadn't personally seen it before that.
That's okay. Well, it's good that that's something that people can look at and, start to kind of unpack and understand, and also see the likeness just to all of us, how we can all understand and put ourselves like, oh, I deal with 5 or 6 of these things, just so that sometimes we have to just understand how close we are to things when we try to, sometimes everybody isn't always as humble as, sometimes we should be a little bit more understanding. And I think things like that put it in perspective. So Laquan, we definitely appreciate you stopping by the Kool Spot today. And we want you to just, what's something specifically that you want people to know just about the Black book experience, and also something just specific with you and your relationship to the autism spectrum disorder that you feel like is essential for them to know?
First and foremost, I do want to reiterate that my service is for anyone who has a diagnosis on the spectrum. That's first and foremost. So anyone, if you know someone who could use the services, who just wants to ask questions, who just wants to get connected with us, initially, our services are for anyone. Now, having said that, it is really, really important for me to communicate that I want people who look like me and who look like you, who have children, to know that they have a safe place to come to get help and support to grow themselves and to grow their children into the best individuals that they can be. Okay. I've tried to really do a great job with the website and displaying that and depicting that, because at the end of the day, we go where we feel that we have a connection and where somebody can understand us.
Absolutely.
Regardless of who you are. I've, based on my career, having to deal with a lot of people in a lot of different ways, having hired persons as a manager and been a manager for a long number of years. Also being connected to the education community and teaching post-secondary education, managing a lot of different students, and having to deal with a lot of different personalities. My goal is to find a way to connect with you in a way that is comfortable with you so that I can help you achieve the goals for your child. Because ultimately, while we help support you, the ultimate support is for your child who's on the spectrum. And that is absolutely what we are here to do. And so the best thing you could absolutely do for yourself in 2023 is take the opportunity to go to our website, to connect with me, to email me. You can email me at info@theblackbookexperience.com. That goes directly to my email, and I will get back to you. Or on our website, there is a chat function. You can use the chat function to connect with me there as well, if that works best for you. I just want you to get the help. I just want you to know the services are here, and I want you to know that me and the Black Book Experience are here to support you and your family, hands down, and put your child first. Or if you're the person, to put you first.
That's awesome. This has been a phenomenal build. I know y'all hear us say that all the time, but anytime that we can sit here and we can grow and we can learn and we can put those questions on the table that we have and know that it doesn't have to, we can admit, hey, I might not know all the answers, or let us bring someone else in that can bring or shed light on something. That's important. And so this has definitely been educational, informative. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have one quick thing because I know we're running out of time. I wanted to do this in person, but since we were not in person.
You got a poem?
I do not have a poem. I do not.
Oh, I thought that's what it was. I was like,
stop running.
We don't have time for a poem. So I have this. This is one of my cool new shirts. As they mentioned, scrolling. It's got our logo. I'm on the wrong side. It's got our logo here, but it says chocolate and literate. It's got a little book here.
The banner free.
And so I have one for free. Oh, you guys probably can't see it. I have one as a gift for free to thank you all for supporting my business.
Wait. Bring it back up. Bring it back closer. Bring it back closer to the screen.
Stop playing. I'm coming to pick up my shirt today. We love
it.
Can you see it? Probably because my
the background is blurring it out.
Yeah, let me see.
There you go.
Oh, that's dope. Thank you.
Okay, for you. And I have one for you too, Lemoy.
Oh, snap.
this
What does
one
that
for you
say?
guys. So I'll get in touch with Free and I'll give the shirts to her so that she can get
I
yours
love
to you.
that.
And
I
thank you
love
guys
that. We
again for
definitely gonna
having us.
rock
So
that too.
that's my small
Aw.
gift and token of appreciation to you guys. I wanted to give it to you in person, but since we can't do that, I wanted to make sure I had it for you today.
Oh, you so dope. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Laquan.
Yes, yes.
Well, and you do have product. You have product for sale too, right?
Oh, wait a minute,
You have
guys.
it
I got it on a scroller. Hold on. Here we go.
There you
Support the
go.
brand.
Right.
Yep.
So anybody can support, whether you're on the spectrum or not. We have some really cool t-shirts, mugs, a bag. We also have, because again, this whole thing is centered around mental health. I have a cool mouse pad out there that talks about mental health matters and connecting. So take a look at my Etsy shop. Buy something. Support a sister.
Something. Get a shirt. He has a lot of dope shirts up there, and the sweaters, of course, you guys see. Definitely, man. This is good. Support, y'all. Support.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Well, as we're preparing to wrap up, we have none other than Loc'd that's going to come back and join us. And because we're artists first, right? We're artists first, and we love the artistry. And so we can't do anything without incorporating the artistry. So we're going to have Loc'd come and perform for us. And we appreciate Laquan for coming and imparting such knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Y'all, please tap in with Laquan, even if you have questions. But I promise you, she's the most approachable person ever. Okay. And then when you do talk to her, she's gonna be like, "Hey, scan this app, scan this right here. It's gonna give you my business card." It's amazing. Okay. It installs the contact in your phone for you. Okay, gives you the breakdown of the website and everything. And I promise y'all, I met her a couple months back, and it just feels like she's a person I've known for a very long time.
Listen, y'all in my community, you don't know it yet, but you're in the community. You can't jump out. You cannot.
We part of the village, okay?
Listen, I done jumped on you in Lamoille's village, okay?
There you go.
Come on. Be the big sister in the group.
Yes.
That's right. Come on,
it's okay. I'm still gonna be the aggravating little sister. I'm with it. I'm okay.
Listen, bring me the baby. That's what they go. Bring me the baby. Madison, my friend now.
Literally, because Madison, like, wait a minute. She taught me how to play pool. I have a home pool table, and she said, she's like, let's play pool again. I do.
All right.
Like a desktop one. We're gonna talk.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you did.
I can remove us so you can have the entire floor.
Give her the floor.
Loc'd is like, wait a minute. I'm still here and I can hear you. So if you need anything, let us know. But we definitely wanted to thank you ladies for coming through. Y'all stay for some amazing poetry from none other than Loc'd. And we're out. So hold on just a second. All right, Loc'd, you got it.
All right. So this has been just a beautiful day. I've been so excited to be a part of it. And thank you all so much for having me to be able to share for just a few minutes with you all. So as we were speaking for this whole entire program, we're talking about how we all are different and how those differences define us, but not in totality. So this particular piece, I wanted to start with just to introduce myself a little bit, as well as talk about how, even though we have these little differences, these unique things about us, they define us, but not all of us. And we are unique individuals in our identities. So I thought this piece would be a great connector piece as well as an introduction piece. It's inspired by India.Arie's song, I Am Not My Hair. I am not my hair, I am not the skin, I am not your expectations, no. I am not my hair, I am not the skin, I am the soul that lives within. I am not my hair, wait. But I am, though. Not in my entirety, but it is an essential part of me. Each follicle a visual extension of my identity, a natural outpouring of what's inside of me. The free-flowing emergence of my thoughts and being, long locks entangled in an illustrious lineage, crown coiled around my unique queendom. Daily reminder of the royalty I adorn. See, I am not my hair. I am not this skin. Wait. But I am, though. Proud I stand as a Black woman, gift wrapped in this melanin skin, a present many won't presently open mind and heart to, which is unfortunate, seeing as it is a timeless gift. Years seem to be eluded by it, blessed, not burned under the warmth of sun's kiss, stronger than diamonds, more graceful than silk. See, I am not my hair, I am not this skin, I am not your expectations. No, but I am, though. See, you expect me to be smart. Well, I am, just not in the way you assume, and in more ways than you will ever understand, making groundbreaking achievements in time, space, and land, rewriting and creating history in first hand. You expect me to be strong-willed. Well, I am. And I will continue to be strong in body, soul, and mind, with a delicate balance of grace and strength you won't easily find, accompanied by wisdom that stands the test of time. You expect me to be angry. Well, I am. I harvest righteous anger from that was planted in the field, from decades and decades of my people going unhealed, fueling my drive never to yield. I am my hair, I am this skin, I am your expectations, but I am so much more. More than what I could conceive to come, and immensely more than what I understood before. And as I stood before mirror, reflecting on reflection, I came to the realization that does the way I wear my hair make me a better person? Does the way I wear my hair make me a better friend? Oh, does the way I wear my hair determine my integrity? I am expressing my creativity. So yes, I am my hair. Yes, I am this skin. I am all your expectations and more. So that's piece number one. Again, just wanted to introduce myself. I am Loc'd. As you can see, I have locks, and they are a part of my identity, but they are not the entirety of me. There is so much more, just like it is so much more to our beautiful individuals, a part of the autism and neurodivergent communities. We are a dynamic people that have so much more than what the surface label, diagnosis, skin, hair can describe us as. There's so much more to us. And the thing that I've noticed a lot is that more so than what other people's expectations might make me nervous or fearful, I really have a lot within me that actually scares me, right? To think of all that encompasses me actually is a quite overwhelming thought. And as we were speaking about the beautiful people on the spectrum, all of the different talents and gifts and mindsets and how they can focus for hours and really figure out things that they want to figure out and have all these beautiful gifts that will just manifest themselves. To not really know what to do with all that power and creativity and intelligence, and it just bubbles within you and you not really know how to put it to work, can be a daunting task. And even within myself, that's why they said that inner me is the biggest enemy sometimes. It's our self-doubt, that imposter syndrome that takes over us. So this piece is called Extreme Home Makeover. The power of my voice incites fear in everyone, including myself. The strength of its sound shakes the foundation of my faith until it crumbles, and it seems only my self-doubt rebuilds it. And no doubt, with fewer bricks of bravery than how I once stood before. So when opportunity shows up at my door and knocks, its knocks get ignored. For all the hammering amidst my construction of these fortified walls of complacency and the cabin of guarantee, and I know I need to break free. For I am a songbird meant to soar, and this settlement is beneath me. And there's no place like home, and no home is where and I know home is where the heart is the heart of my insecurity. And that's where they inhabit, wrapped warmly in comforters of contentment, snuggled by fires of fear, sipping what-if wine, dining on dreams deferred, sitting on subpar sofas because I won't take the seat at the table. I haven't even been able to grow my goals in the garden. For I buried the seeds of my vision 6 feet under indecision, believing they will only come to fruition by blooming in the next lifetime, but I can't do Badu. I can't wait until I die to live. I must contract a new lease on life, move out of my comfort zone, unplant my feet from these floorboards, and take flight. Give these wings a chance. Take that one small step for man that will land me on the moon, because I'm not trying to be a star. The gravity of my gift raises the bar. So that is Extreme Home Makeover, and it's to empower us in this new year, as Miss Free was telling us. But even now is the time to plant. Now is the time for those seeds that really do that germination process. While everything is supposed to be cold and dormant, that's when those seeds are really growing and developing. So that way, when spring comes, they're ready to pop out. So now is the time, as Free was saying, to really get those routines in place, to really challenge yourself, to really help yourself bump up to the next level and reconstruct a new version of yourself. It's not ever a wrong time to rebuild. You don't have to wait until the numbers on the calendar change. You can start today. Like Mr. Lemoy was saying, like he don't wait for no new year. He's like, I want to be the best version of myself every single day. And every single day I talk to myself and encourage myself to get higher and better and grow deeper. And I love that. For this next piece, and I'm going to close us out with this. I didn't get, I'm just kind of here. I didn't know how many to share or how long to share it. So I have this next piece. And again, inspired by Miss India Ari. She's just one of my favorites. I said, if I can start writing songs like her, if I can write a song like India, then I'm going to be all right. Let me tell y'all something, okay? The storytelling on that one, chills. So this piece is called Naked. And sometimes we have to undress the expectations. We have to remove the weights that we place on ourselves to meet the expectations of someone else, while all the while we are not living up to our own potential, right? And when we tap into a place where we free ourselves from the constrictions, that's when we're really allowed to be free, to be the fullness of ourselves. Okay. So this piece again is called Naked. I believe in open doors. I'm taking off the screen. I'm ready to let the world come inside and change my life. I will no longer be defined by what someone else believes that I am. Now that I have dropped the weight, I am light as a feather. It's time to elevate. Sobered rise, lift your eyes, spread your wings, and prepare to fly. This is the moment of your life. Go ahead and fly. I stand naked before you. No longer garmented in beautiful language, absent of metaphor and simile, which were merely hyperbole designing delusions of grandeur in my reality. Masking the actuality, amplifying the make-believe, hiding the history, simply mystifying me. Covering my future by layering my past, but now all these incohesive patterns are starting to clash. So at last, I cast off the turtleneck that sought to constrict my voice and control my thoughts. I unsnapped the sweater I sought for shelter to shield me from the cold snares. I removed the slacks that lack the ability to profess all that I am destined to be. See, I undress completely. For I had become completely exhausted from the pressure and stress of trying to impress. So yes, I undress and will no longer conform to the norm. I will no longer adorn the accessories of the society seeking to characterize me. I will remove the undergarment seeking to override my personality. See, this bra is too tight, cutting me off from my connection to the breath of life. These shoes, they're too loose, tripping me up along life's journey. It's time to bear all. Every button, every zipper, every snap, all the lace. Unbuttoned, unhinged, unsnapped, unleashed. A mind wide open, a heart rediscovered, a joyous jaybird set free. Soul bird, rise, lift your eyes, spread your wings, and prepare to fly. This is the moment of your life. Go ahead and fly. I want to thank you all so much for listening. And that is what I have to share for this podcast program.
Thank you, Loc'd. You know what? It's the fact that you don't feel like you write like India Ivory. Because
you killed it. Definitely kill that.
So
phenomenal work, man. It's always a pleasure to see you. It's always a pleasure to work side by side with you, cross paths. Like, congratulations. She has some new music out on all the streaming platforms. She got
Called Jordan.
Support. Yeah, check it out, y'all. Check it out.
Yes, definitely check me out, you guys. I appreciate it. So as I said, I have 2 projects out. One is called Out and one is called In. Out is all a cappella. It's without music, essentially. And that was the one that has Sweet Escape that Free was saying it was on her playlist. And it also has my most trending song, Senseless, on that playlist as well, on that project. And then the second one is called In. And that one is about to turn a year next month. I've released that project of February 2022, actually on Tuesday, 2/22/22. I released that project. Yes. Gotta have that good energy. So that project released, it'll be a year coming up real soon. Like, the time is flying as far as me being an actual recorded artist. Like, it's
You're doing it, yeah.
Yes, and new music is on the way. I just dropped Jay's on 11/11. So that song is the latest one out, but I also have some new music in the works. So be on the lookout for that.
Okay. Now, are you in any plays now? I know you do plays. I know you. Loc'd is an all-around artist. Okay, she's an artist. Okay. So what else is on Loc'd's plate?
Right now, I am actually going to be looking into. I just finished a play back in November called Doubt. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but it had the movie version had Meryl Streep and Lord, I can always see her face. I can never say her name. My glory.
You need to come on forward.
I know, right? I cannot think of it. Anywho, It was a really powerful a really powerful poem. It was a Tony Award winning poem and all of that.
You talking about Viola?
Yes, Viola Davis. Lord, Kate Neville.
I got you, boo.
But yes, so Meryl Streep and Viola Davis starred in it, and the people were very kind to us, saying that we did a comparable job. I was like,
oh wow,
I know you are not trying to say that we was Meryl Streep up in here, but that's cute or whatever. Thank you for the support. We appreciate you. But yes, so I'll be doing some more plays in this upcoming season. They've actually already reached out to me to work. They have musicals as well. And they're like, oh, you sing too. Can you come and do a musical? So I'm excited about that. I am also excited about getting into more film. I have a friend in LA who has been inviting me to fly out there to do film projects with him. He's actually filming one today that I was supposed to be a part of, but scheduling conflicts and things, I couldn't make it to the rehearsals. So, but I will be doing some more of that. And currently I am the host at Melanated Wine in Durham, North Carolina for their poetry nights on once a month. The next one will be January the 20th. So I've been doing that since about September of last year with them on, it's been accidentally, but consistently the third Friday of the month. So, I've been doing that, and we'll continue to partner with them this year as their host for their poetry night event at Melanated Wine. It's a complete vibe. Come and check us out and uncork the culture with us.
Absolutely.
Definitely will. Look, I literally just made a note because y'all know I make a sticky note for everything.
I know that's right.
It's on the screen. I got you. We're going to go ahead and pull up.
Yeah, we're going to check you out.
Pull up for sure. Yes. Pull up on me.
Okay. You keep us posted. We're going to be there.
Yes. And you all definitely continue to check me out on Tuesdays for Teacher Talk Tuesdays. Come
yes,
laughs and mountains there.
Yeah.
Yes. So check me
Give
out.
Give me a briefing about that. Give me a briefing about it.
So Teacher Talk actually, yeah. So, I hope I'm not freezing. Because everybody
you are a little bit.
I hope I'm not freezing.
You a little bit. There you go. You back. I think you back.
Okay. Okay. So Teacher Talk Tuesdays, as we were speaking before, I am a teacher, and something that struck me is on the first day of school, all up and down my social media timelines is nothing but pictures of people's kids and their back to school fit. And I was like, that's real cute or whatever, but then your child came to school and they had exactly one pencil and one pack of paper. And what you want me to do with that? Like, they're not gonna make it for the year with one pack of paper, but they got the new J's. They got the fresh fit on. But you couldn't fit in a few dollars for some quality school supplies. Like, we need to do better, people. So that's so I made a video about it. It got so many laughs. And I just started thinking about, what's some other teacher qualms that I got? And so that birthed Teacher Talk Tuesdays. And it has been a joy to make. It's been so fun. So that's where I get my little comedic side in my acting in, because I act a fool. And so I'm hoping to expand that character and that platform. It has its own Instagram page, but the big thing is everybody's like, you need to get that on TikTok. You need to get that on TikTok. So that's the 23 goal, is to launch Teacher Talk Tuesdays through TikTok and give the people the tickles in their ribs that they need. So
there you go. You keep it coming too. Though. Good stuff. Good content.
Thank you.
Good stuff. So yeah, Free. So I think we're gonna close on out.
We're gonna close on out, Loc'd. Thank you so much for coming through with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
As always, loves, y'all know what to do. Make sure you're following the movement, the Kool Spot, on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, the Kool Spot. Also make sure you check that Patreon. You also have Lamoy Decina, your host, Free the Poet, aka Sharita Freeman, your co-host, which is me. And again, we appreciate y'all rocking out with us. We will be in person next go round.
Oh yeah, wait, Free. We also have our Google My Business page up and running.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. You know, I've been spending time since Facebook betrayed me now, so I've been spending time elsewhere and cheating on Facebook because they doing me dirty right now. So we do have our Google My Business page running. You guys can check that out for any updates. You can also live stream what's linked to our YouTube, where you can click the link for the post when we go live. It'll take you straight to our YouTube page. And yeah, we're cheating on Facebook. Yeah. So, but yeah, so you guys can check that out and get the updates. We have all of our flyers and different things that we're posting on social media up there. Go up there and leave a review. If you guys enjoyed this, I don't have the link in front of me free for the review.
So I'm looking for it.
It's in the email. It's in the email.
Okay. Un momento, por favor.
Yeah. So for all of you guys that enjoyed this, please go up there and support us on our Google My Business page. You can leave us a review. Free's pulling up the link so she can share it here, and go up there and give us 5 stars on the podcasting. Because I think this show was phenomenal. We talked about it earlier. We haven't gone virtual since like March last year.
Yes, it's definitely been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah. So now it's, to be back into the virtual world, we're still going to text me the Google link, please. Yeah. So we're still going to do our live shows. And again, we apologize for everybody that showed up at the venue space. Again, I put the update out yesterday, and I apologize for the inconvenience if it was last minute and a lot of you guys didn't catch it after you made plans. We'll make it up to you guys next month. Next month is February, Black History Month. So we got to bring some heat.
You already know. We're
going to work on some stuff because here at the Kool Spot, we're facts first, feeling second. So that means if we bring the content to you, we're hitting you with the facts first, and then we'll deal with your feelings afterwards. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, but that's what we're going to be working on for next month. We'll make it up to you guys somehow. Maybe we'll give you guys like a $5 ticket to get in. We may just do it like a full day party kind of thing where we just make the whole thing free. Nah, I can't even say it free, but we'll do like $5 a ticket.
I'm gonna see if I can work on him, y'all. Okay, leave it free, because free just makes sense, right?
We'll try to work it out. We'll work it out for y'all for free, though. We'll see if we can work that out for next month. But again, in order to keep this going, please support, share, like, comment. Somebody said you already have free, right? So
only one free, huh?
Right, you already free. So. But please like, comment, and share, subscribe. Go to our Patreon, make a generous donation. I mean, it's nothing. You can start off at $2. We call that generous around here. So $2 a month, make that commitment, and $2 go a long way. You know what I mean? Yeah. 20 people, $2. I mean, we making some change, some pocket change to keep us going.
Okay, so, we took it with some grease, y'all.
Right. So I mean, we'll take that, and of course, we do appreciate it, and I promise you, we'll make it up to you guys next month. For those of you that did show up at the venue space and nobody was there and the doors were locked, so I apologize for that. But we'll make it up to you guys. All right. Everybody that had tickets, we did the refunds yesterday, sent that back. And if you guys were short, I cashed app you guys. Just wanted to make sure you guys had everything in order, and whatever you put in, you got it back. But again, this is community based. We're highly interactive, and we want to make sure that you guys are there to get this experience live next time. But virtual was fun.
It was fun. It was nostalgic. It kind of felt like a blast from the past. And definitely virtual kept us going throughout the pandemic. So
it did. That's how we started off.
It definitely.
So, eventually as things grow, we may go back to doing it. We may do one virtual and one in person a month. So go back to doing 2 eventually. But we're growing. We're growing. We're patient.
Growing. Limo be ready to see y'all every week.
So we'll jump out there. Well, it's me. I take that. I'll jump out there because I'm ambitious, and I'll be like, Free, I think it's a good idea.
We can do it every weekend. I'm like, Limo, I got 25 things to do. And you told me to slow down. And
I get excited. I have to admit that I get excited. But yeah, did you find a link? Free? You ain't find a link?
No, I went ahead and put it. You didn't even see it up there at the bottom. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong page. I'm on the wrong page. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You just Google the Kool Spot NC and it comes up.
Oh yeah, you can do that too. Boom. There you go. But I had a direct link for the reviews though, but that's fine. Google us, the Kool Spot NC, and you'll find us up there. Go up there and leave us a comment, leave us a review, give us 5 stars. We're only looking for 5s, you know what I mean? Because we spend a lot of time with what we do, a lot of effort, a lot of just like the creation process is a whole nother world and a beast in itself. So
Absolutely.
Go up there and give us some 5s because we're here for the people, we're here for the community. And we love y'all. We love y'all.
We love y'all with our whole hearts. And there's nothing I'd rather be doing, y'all, to be honest.
Right.
This is the worst thing to do, to try to look at the camera and your fingers at the same time. Right. Cross-eyed guys. But no, we absolutely love y'all, and we're here to do this. I mean, this is amazing, and this is fun for us to get knowledge out to the community and to learn. You know what I'm saying? Learning can be fun. This is where the millennials meet. So we definitely appreciate y'all coming out. We just wanted to let y'all know just how much we appreciate y'all. So don't forget to make sure you are following us on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure you're following our personal pages as well. Don't forget you can contribute via Patreon. Make sure you follow on the YouTube, hit like, subscribe. We have a TikTok. Make sure you hit the TikTok as well. And I think we out. We got anything else we missing out on?
That's about it.
One more thing. Guys, don't forget to follow the Black Book Experience.
Oh, the Black Book Experience.
They also have a TikTok too, so make sure you're following them. All right, I want to make sure we don't forget that. Also, don't forget to follow Loc'd, because Loc'd has new music coming out. She done told y'all. Okay, she got this stuff coming. She's an amazing artist, so let's follow and support her and give her our love as well. And if all hearts and minds are clear, y'all, we're gonna catch y'all next time. Okay, see you later. Peace.